Hello, this is Overlord Boat, and we're back with SAT Score, and today we'll be covering the latest version of Submarine gameplay, featuring the Tier 6 Cachalot. This video will cover sub gameplay as of 11.2 patch. Keep in mind, the wargaming mechanics that you're seeing in this video may change in the future, so just make sure you make that aware just in case you're seeing this video a few months down the line. So what we'll be covering in this video may not reflect subs in their final state. With this, let's go over the captain builds. Now, the German subs play more aggressively, so their build is designed to maximize dive time. As you can see at the top right, you can see the Captainer builds. In the list, you should take it there. And then on the top right, you see what modules to take and what flags you should take as well. Now, with the American subs, the build you'll be seeing in a few seconds, we'll play further back. You play them further back due to their longer range torps. As such, you build them to maximize their damage output, so that but you can take the same build as their German counterparts if you want to be more aggressive. But the Americans are more specialized in longer back gameplay. Now, let's talk about submarines now. So submarines have a unique playstyle compared to other classes. They are very stealthy ships, able to dive underwater, protecting them from being spotted. On the surface, they have the same, about the same detection ranges compared to DDs at their tier. For armament, they only carry torpedoes, though higher tier subs can carry different types of torpedoes. Unique to subs, they carry homing torpedoes, which relies on sonar pings to follow their targets. Every 10 seconds, the submarine can fire a sonar ping. A successful ping will allow the torps to home in on the target. Pinging the same section of the ship twice improves the homing effectiveness. Each class has a dead zone where homing torpedoes will stop tracking them, regardless if they're pinged or not. BBs has the largest dead zone, while DDs has the smallest. Cruisers are in the middle. Multiple ships can be pinged, however, the torpedo will only lock on to the original target that the torpedo is currently following. In other words, the homing torpedoes will continue to track the same target if you ping a different ship. Keep in mind, sonar pings become visible to enemies starting at 8 kilometers. As you can see in the example clip on the top right, which is playing for a bit, attentive players can use the sonar pings against the enemy sub. These sonar pings give a general idea of where he is, allowing you to strike him with depth charges. Now, as you can see on the Dallas, he just DCP'd my double ping, which is displayed as an X on the enemy, which means that he cannot be sonared, making it impossible to ping them as long as their DCP is active. So proper DCP timing can save you from getting hit by these homing torpedoes. Now let's talk about the diving mechanics. Each submarine has a battery timer that shows how long they can stay underwater. For instance, right now for my Cachalot, the timer is 2 minutes and 50 seconds. Different subs have different timers, with the Germans being longer than their US counterparts. If the sub is detected while underwater, the battery depletes faster. That's why the only time you want to go underwater is when you're trying to hide your detection, where you're trying not to get spotted. You don't want to waste your battery nonchalantly because you only have a limited amount, so you have to use it wisely. If the enemy hits your submarine, they can cause a fuel leak that is illustrated by an oil spill on the water. This will give away your location, allowing enemies to track your movements. The oil spill will persist for around 40 seconds or until DCP is used. Now, as you can see on the top right, it is showcasing what it looks like from the depth charge planes of a battleship. It makes it very easy to be able to predict where a submarine's going, and you're able to hunt down the submarine using the depth charge planes over and over again. You can continuously do damage, which also makes it able for DDs to be able to hunt down the submarines easily as well. A very fine addition to the game, and this mechanic makes it a lot easier for battleships, cruisers, and DDs to be able to hunt down submarines. Now, with that mechanic out of the way, let's talk about what happens when you're out of battery. When you run out of battery, it causes an emergency blowout, which forces you to surface after 15 seconds of you running out of battery. The battery can be charged while on the surface, which is why the sub will spend most of their time on the surface, diving only to escape detection. That's one of the reasons why a lot of people consider subs pretty much like DDs, because most of the time you're spent on the surface. While on the surface, subs can spot like other classes, but when at periscope depth, can only spot ships from their air detection range. When at 30 meters at max depth, subs cannot spot on their own and require teammates to spot for them. While on the surface, the sub can be spotted from the surface and the air detection range, but when at periscope depth, can only be spotted 2 kilometers away by the assured spotting range. At maximum depth, or at 30 meters down, the submarine becomes almost invisible to everyone but other subs with hydrophone active. Now, regarding ship-based hydro and spotting, I'll be showing a clip on the top right to demonstrate the interaction. If the sub is on the surface or at periscope depth, then the hydro will detect the sub as normal. If the sub dives to maximum depth, then the hydro will only pick her up within 2 kilometers. Now, this change is hugely important because in previous iterations, when submarines were at maximum depth, nothing could spot them except for a submarine's hydrophone, or if a submarine got within the assured distance, which was 2 kilometers. Now that that's changed, it now means that no matter what, a submarine can be spotted in some way, even if they're at maximum depth, which is a huge positive change. For radar, it will detect the sub only on the surface. As soon as the sub dives, the radar will not detect her. Now, this is a change from before. In the previous iterations, you were able to spot submarines with radar when they're at periscope depth, but now you can only spot them at the surface, and once they go down to periscope, you can no longer see them with radar. As you can see, we're starting to target the North Cal, but before that, now this would be a great opportunity to mention this video sponsor, which is Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of classes covering all different sorts of skills. Skillshare can help you make 2022 a year of new learning and growth and connection through creativity. Have a specific skill you're trying to learn? Skillshare is the perfect place to start. From photography and illustration to graphic design, freelancing, and more. You can find classes that will match your goals. My interest is around YouTube and Twitch, so I enjoy the class YouTube Success, Script, Shoot, and Edit with Marquise Brownlee. It helps me a lot on how to edit YouTube, which helps out the content for you all to enjoy. Now, the first 1,000 people to use the link down below, or my code, which is Overlord Bo, is also on the screen, will get 1 month free trial of Skillshare. Link is in the description down below. Now back to the video. Now, where were we? Yes. The North Carolina has volunteered to test our torpedoes. Now, I'll let SAT Score explain the proper ways on how to fire the torpedoes.
Alright. So, North Carolina is showing broadside to... well, was showing broadside to you. Broadside is the best angle to attack other ships. Regardless, the homing capability does allow you to strike from different angles if necessary. As you can see here, Bo fired his torpedoes very far ahead of the ship, so now that he's got the double ping, then the torpedoes are just going to curve onto the North Carolina, even from that angle. And he is able to, and with the proper positioning, you can actually fire both your front and rear torpedoes. That way the front starts tracking and then the rear will hit from a different angle. This will make it very difficult for any ship to dodge without using DCP. So you may have noticed the Catch-a-lot is in the cap, but he's not actually taking the cap. And this is due to how the diving mechanics work. If you're in the cap but you're underwater, then the sub does not capture the cap. In order to take it, you'll have to be on the surface like every other ship. And so this basically prevents this prevents subs from just taking the cap while being effectively immune. This can help in certain situations where if you want to cross a cap, but you don't want to let the enemy know that you're there. That way you can just cross completely underwater, enemy doesn't know that you've crossed it, and then you surface next to the enemy CV, and he's all surprised. So even though Bo has landed multiple hits on the North Carolina, he's only gotten 1 flood so far. Submarine torps, generally speaking, do not have a high flood chance, and so they mostly rely on their alpha to cause damage. In fact, a lot of the times you'll cause their DCP mostly by pinging them incessantly. So that's I think we covered a lot of the sub mechanics here. What tips and tricks do you have for the viewers, Bo?
We were talking about how there were two types of torps. Now at tier 6, you only have the homing, but once you get to tier 8 and 10, you get both the homing and the dumbfire torps. Now there is a slight reload time when you switch torps, so make sure you're wanting to switch torps between the dumbfire and the homing. But if you do switch torps while the salvo is still reloading, it does not change the time left, so it won't reset the whole reload that you've already progressed so far. Now, the dumbfire torps do not get affected by the sonar mechanics and have a longer arm times, so it's harder to just shotgun a target that is rushing you. They only affected by the sonar mechanic is when you have a skill called Torpedo Aiming Master, which is shown on the top right of the screen. This skill increases torpedo damage by 15% when a double pinged target. This can be built into both the German and American subs, but I recommend you build this into the American submarines since you're going to be building in the damage for them. The dumbfire torps are great for sneaking up on slow targets and doing a lot of damage to them.
So you say the dumbfire torps would be very good against predictable targets, correct?
Yeah, yes, it'll be good against predictable targets that you're able to predict where they're going. So say that you've been stalking a battleship for a little bit and he's coming at you, or you're able to get onto his broadside. You're able to stay at periscope depth so that you're not spotted. You're only spotted within the 2 kilometers. So you're able to sneak up on them and not nuke them, but it will do a lot of damage. Because even if you do hit all of your torpedoes with the citadels, you're not going to kill them. You will do a lot of damage though.
So, what about the hydrophone? I don't think we've covered much about it. Like, when would we use the hydrophone?
The hydrophone is best used when you're trying to hunt down an enemy sub, or if you're trying to stay at maximum depth where you won't be spotted. It's good to use that to keep track of surface targets, because they will show up on the mini-map. With the hydrophone it will. Where enemies are within the hydrophone's range. And if there's a submarine, you'll be able to see them within the 5 kilometers for this one, but at the tier 10s, I believe it's 5.5 kilometers for the hydrophone distance, where you'll be able to see submarines underwater. The hydrophone will only work underwater as long as the enemy submarine is underwater, so if there is a submarine at the surface, you won't be able to see them until they dive, and you'll be able to see them as if like a radar or a sonar.
Well, I think that's it. What do you think?
Yep, I think that about covers it. If you guys have any questions, concerns, leave them in the comments down below. I would also love to hear if you guys have your own tips and tricks. There hasn't been that many videos on subs currently, so would love to spread out more tips and tricks among the community. This is the first time of me trying out these new editing techniques, so if you guys like them, definitely let me know. But this is Overlord Bo. Thank y'all for watching, and talk to y'all later. Oh, big stretch, dude. Oh, big stretch, yeah.